OK, on to Ukraine now. US President Joe Biden is sending more troops to Eastern Europe in an attempt to bolster Western strength against a possible Russian invasion.
Moscow's denied planning to invade, but has deployed all these troops that we keep hearing about near Ukraine's borders. To analyse the president's efforts to stop a possible war, Scottie Nell Hughes. Scottie is a US political commentator and joins us now from Washington, D.C. Good morning to you. Thanks for your company.
Oh, good morning. It's a lovely time. It's a lovely morning to be with you, despite a very interesting and tenacious situation that we're dealing with over around the Ukrainian border.
How tenacious? When you say tenacious, how do you see the placing of these troops?
Well, we're looking at what's going on right now. And it's not only about what is happening with the placing of the troop, it's the U.S. involvement and what we're willing to do and what we're willing to risk for our allies. You know, the continued ambiguity and chaos that is surrounding the U.S.'s approach and their strategy to Ukraine is just another example of this administration's failure to actually execute a program that they say they're going to do. And unfortunately, this time it's very dangerous, not only for U.S. troops, but sadly could possibly be dangerous for our allies and their troops as well, because there is a very large risk right now for many of the areas. And a lot of Americans right now feel there's a huge disconnect, saying the politicians are saying one thing, but the people are going, why are we dealing with this? Why are we even involved in the situation? The reality is Ukraine is not a part of NATO, and there's enough issues in the post-pandemic America that this president should be focused on here at home. Why are we putting so many troops across the board in another country when we're not even willing to put the troops on our southern border and secure our own security here in our backyards? The good news is it seems like that rhetoric, those drums of war that have been beaten for the last 2 weeks, finally cooler heads have prevailed. The leaders over there in Europe that never felt like this was going to be wanted a war, thought a war was imminent, have actually gotten to Biden. This today, the White House actually said, we are no longer think that a Russian invasion is imminent. But yet they continue to send troops over there, troops over to Eastern Europe. So there's a lot of confusion, a lot of ambiguity. But the reality is most Americans don't have the stomach, seeing after what happened in Afghanistan, to actually handle another war that has nothing to do with American interests, especially, like I said, we have a lot of problems here in America that we could be dealing with today.
How interesting. So what you're telling us then is, we hear constantly about what a divided democracy America is, with the hawks and the doves. Is this on party lines then? Is this very much that the Democrats are in favour of supporting the allies on the European border with Russia, or is it not down party lines?
You know, that is a great question, and actually a really interesting observation, because that's usually what U.S. politics is, divide amongst party lines. But this time, looks like the observation, this is the one thing that Republicans and Democrats who are elected to office are almost agreeing to. Outside of, we did have, I think it was Senator Tim Hawley out of Missouri came out today and said, hold on, the only thing that would actually ratchet it down is if all that Russia wants is to the guarantee that Ukraine will not be joining NATO. And he's been absolutely attacked for that. But the divide actually is amongst the politician and the people. And that is a very actually scary occurrence. I almost would want it along political lines because then you would have a balance. But in this case, when you have the people, which sadly in America today, the voice is not as strong as it has been in the past, the politicians with their donors and their large industrial military complex that continues to rule Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., has a lot of power, a lot of domination. And the president has done a bad job, as well as Republicans, and selling it to the American people is why this is important to us, to possibly risk bloodshed, but also billions in taxpayer dollars for a situation that Germany, France, other European countries and theater are saying, please, you are hurting our economy, including the leaders of Ukraine. Ratchet this down. We still believe that there's a diplomatic path to peace between all of the countries.
So if the politicians across the divide are agreed that this is the right action to do, and they're there representing the people, how do you know that the people aren't supporting this? Is this through polling or is this through protests?
It's through the majority. It's not only through polling, it's also through local media as well that is saying, yes, this is not the right thing, that they don't want to see this happen. But I think it's the same thing in UK, because what you're seeing is two leaders that are very much unpopular right now. Joe Biden has the lowest popularity numbers he's had in office, actually the lowest of most Democratic presidents after their first year. We have high inflation. We have low unemployment. We have, obviously, coronavirus numbers are still skyrocketing in this country, a problem continue to deal with. And so the people around here are saying, deal with the issues here. Make sure that you deal with us. Over in the UK, you have the same issue, obviously, with the prime minister himself under a lot of duress right now, and rightfully so. People asking about the parties and him being there under COVID standards. And so he himself is finding himself at a huge popularity drop over the past month. And what is the best rule of politicians when it comes to when they're feeling the heat in their own backyard? Let's distract and let's go point our fingers somewhere else. Unfortunately, we are post-pandemic, and that bird's not going to fly right now. People, especially considering, like I said, the absolute abysmal failure of the withdrawal in Afghanistan, people have already seen that this is just not a place for the United States and our allies to be in right now.
OK, Scottie Neill, thanks for your analysis. Very good, because you're obviously saying this will not play out well domestically for Joe Biden, but ironically, it is playing out well for Boris Johnson in the UK. So an interesting juxtaposition there as to how it's going. But listen, thanks for your time. Thanks for your analysis. Appreciate you taking part.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.